The man was beaten until he was covered in blood, but in order to survive, he terrifiedly ran into the street. 3 monsters continued to chase him. The man was just a human. How could he possibly stand a chance against the monsters? The monsters suddenly leaped up. They jumped in front of the man. The monsters grabbed him and beat him mercilessly. There were brave souls around, filming the incident on their phones. Ultimately, the man was burned to a crisp, and the 3 monsters vanished. The local police took over the case. The deceased was named Zhu Mingxuan. He was 36 years old. His background was quite ordinary. No suspicious circumstances were found. The incident occurred during the day. Countless witnesses stated that the killers were 3 monsters, and that they suddenly disappeared after the attack. This left the police perplexed. The investigation made no progress. Previously, there was a cult called the New Truth Cult that had uploaded some videos. Although the incidents happened abroad, the monsters in those videos were the same as those in this case. The superior assigned a task. Officer Chen and An Biao were in charge of investigating this New Truth Cult, trying to find useful leads. An Biao searched online. The cult claimed that angels would predict someone's death, and then hell's messengers would come to the mortal realm to take the sinner to hell to suffer. At the crime scene, the body was taken by forensic investigators for examination. Preliminary tests found no other traces. The monsters really appeared out of thin air, and then vanished into thin air, not far away on the street. Someone was preaching. Officer Chen went over to investigate and found that it was the leader of the cult Zheng Jinshou. He was addressing the gathered citizens, playing a video. The incident occurred in a village in Southeast Asia. The same monsters used the same method to take a person's soul. Zheng Jinshou explained that these individuals were all serious offenders, murderers and thieves, the kind of people who committed all sorts of heinous acts. The monsters are hell's messengers. They come to the mortal realm to punish evil people. After the meeting, Officer Chen approached Zheng Jinshou to chat. Zheng Jinshou was very cooperative. He said he had an interview and could only talk while walking. Officer Chen inadvertently saw his daughter Annie volunteering for the cult. Seeing that Officer Chen was displeased, he promised that he wouldn't let Annie help again next time. Then the group arrived at the subway station. On the subway, Zheng Jinshou shared his experiences. He grew up in an orphanage until the year he turned 20. He finally left the orphanage. He had no support, nor any hope of living. He wanted to seek death. Zheng Jinshou went to a high mountain. He planned to end his life there. To end his life, it was there that he first encountered the Hell's Messenger. Suddenly, he found the motivation to live. From then on, the Hell's Messengers became his object of exploration. Zheng Jinshou worked hard to find information about them, and communicated their stories to the public, to warn people to have hearts of goodness and love. Officer Chen did not believe his words. If all crimes were judged by Hell's Messengers, then what is the purpose of the law? Zheng Jinshou mocked Officer Chen. What about your wife? She died so tragically. Did the law bring you any justice? Once those words were spoken, Officer Chen was left speechless. The television interview crew arrived. His conversation with Zheng Jinshou came to an end. When he got home, his daughter was already asleep. Officer Chen entered the room. His daughter suddenly woke up and said she wouldn't go to the cult anymore. She reassured her father to not worry. Back in his room, Officer Chen couldn't sleep at all. Zheng Jinshou's mention of his wife made him restless. The tragedy of his wife 6 years ago reappeared in his mind. In these past few years, he had been restraining himself, afraid to face and remember it. After the incident back then, the killer was quickly apprehended. He was a drug addict. Under the influence of drugs, he went insane and killed. His wife was an innocent bystander. What's more infuriating is that the killer was sentenced to only 10 years due to mental issues, and he had just been released from prison. By this calculation, the killer spent only about 6 years inside. A life is worth just 6 years in prison. On the other side, single mother Jingzi returned home. Her 2 children appeared holding a birthday cake. Their cramped and simple home instantly filled with love. The angelic prophecy surprisingly appeared in their home. South Korean society began to descend into chaos. On the internet, there was a streamer named Arrowhead, who spread rhetoric to confuse the masses. He even incited his fans to attack a novelist who opposed them. the novelist was beaten by a group of underage kids. Although the police caught the group of troublemaking children, due to the juvenile protection laws, the police could only patiently educate them. At worst, they could only send them to a juvenile facility. Lawyer Min Huijian represented the novelist. She advised the police to strictly discipline a few minors. Otherwise, such incidents would become more frequent. Lawyer Min became the enemy of Arrowhead. Just as Lawyer Min returned to the office, a colleague pulled her to meet a client. A big deal had come in. The client was Jingzi. The cult was willing to pay 3 billion won to livestream the process of Jingzi being taken by the Hell's Messenger. After her divorce, she took care of her 2 children. Their living conditions were poor. If she really wanted to die, then the large sum left behind could at least provide for her children's future. This process had legal protection, so she sought out Lawyer Min. Lawyer Min initially didn't want to accept such a strange deal, but her partner persuaded her. First, if there are no supernatural events, it would be just the right thing to undermine the cult. That would be a good thing. Second, if there really are monsters, then leaving a sum of money for the children would also be a good thing. Why not do something that helps others? After thinking it over, Lawyer Min believed that her partner's reasoning was sound, so she accepted the deal. On the police side, the forensic expert said that, after so many years, he had never seen such a substance. After various experiments, he still couldn't draw any conclusions. Upon hearing this, the captain reprimanded them for their incompetence. In front of the public, vibrant lives were brutally taken, yet they couldn't find any leads. On the other side, Officer Chen had previously interacted with Zhang Jinshou. Now the incident of live streaming the Hell's Messenger locking souls had arisen. They had a second encounter. Zhang Jinshou candidly admitted that, among the cult's followers, there were no shortage of super-rich individuals. He also warned Officer Chen that this was the will of God. Mortal investigations would be futile. As they discussed this, they made their way to Jingzi's home. And so, Jingzi, the police, the cult, and Lawyer Min all gathered here to sit down. Everyone was preparing for the livestream. Lawyer Min and Zhang Jinshou were discussing the legal details and signing the contract. Zhang Jinshou also inquired about the matter of the children's father. Jingzi refused to say anything, but Zhang Jinshou knew some details. The 2 children came from 2 different fathers. Jingzi's background hid some kind of secret. The child hiding in the room knew that someone was pressuring their mother. The brother resolutely rushed out to block for his mother. Jingzi immediately sent the child back to the room. She cried, pleading with Zhang Jinshou and the lawyer. After she dies, she would accept any charges against her, but they must take good care of her 2 children. Officer Chen returned home to find his daughter was not there. He called to inquire. His daughter said she was studying at a classmate's house. She wouldn't be coming home tonight. In fact, Annie went to meet Zhang Jinshou. She recounted the story of her mother's murder. Annie felt it was her responsibility. Her mother had asked her to deliver clothes to her father, but because she got distracted on the way, they forgot about it. So her mother told Annie to stay home while she went to deliver the clothes. Then, she encountered disaster on the way. Annie felt particularly guilty because of this. For the past few years, she had been unable to forgive herself. At this moment, someone online leaked Jingzi's information. They also discovered the children's photos and names. These leaks were all spread by the streamer named Arrowhead. Arrowhead even began inciting his fans to take action. He urged people to surround Jingzi. Fortunately, Officer Chen and Lawyer Min were aware of this. They immediately rushed to the scene. Lawyer Min, following Jingzi's wishes, sent the 2 children onto a plane to temporarily escape to relatives in Canada. The younger sister was still small. She didn't understand the significance of this journey, but the older brother was already sensible. He understood that after this departure, they would never see their mother again. The brother began to cry loudly. From then on, the siblings would have to rely on each other. Meanwhile, Zhang Jinshou took Annie to the roadside. A man walked out of a convenience store. Annie recognized him at first glance. This was the killer who had murdered her mother. Under Zhang Jinshou's instigation, Annie stunned the perpetrator. Immediately after, the 2 sent the killer to the incinerator. Annie stood quietly to the side, watching the scene inside. A satisfied smile appeared on Annie's face. Perhaps in her view, only by doing this could she avenge her deceased mother. Early the next morning, a reporter received a tip-off. A charred body was found on a farm. Based on the surrounding documents and clothing, he might be the killer from 6 years ago. The reporter stated that this case was likely also the work of the Hell's Messengers. Officer Chen was stunned upon seeing the news. The next day, which was also the day the livestream began, the roads were crowded with onlookers. Everyone wanted to witness the true appearance of the Hell's Messengers. There were also news reporters from various countries rushing to the scene to cover the event, adjusting the machines to take up advantageous positions. Officer Chen watched this grand spectacle. To prevent a riot, he dispatched snipers to observe in the shadows. The outer wall of a house was torn down on sight. 12 chairs were placed outside the house for the wealthy to observe more closely. Such an ordinary seat was worth around 250 million. Jingzi walked out of the room. She slowly walked to the chair and sat down. The time had come. Everyone focused their attention, listening to the host start the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, the door was blown open. 3 Hell's Messengers arrived as expected. The messengers seized Jingzi directly and pinned her against the wall, injuring her arm in the process. Officer Chen immediately notified the snipers to open fire. Unexpectedly, the sniper was stunned and slow to react. Officer Chen had no choice but to advance alone. He drew his handgun and pulled the trigger, but the bullets had no effect on the monsters. They were completely ineffective. Instead, they only angered the monsters. The Hell's Messengers turned around, and with a single blow, sent Officer Chen flying. No one could stop these 3 Hell's Messengers. The audience on site and in front of the television were terrified by this cruel scene, and dared not open their eyes. After absorbing Jingzi's soul, the 3 monsters leaped up and vanished before everyone's eyes. The 12 sponsors knelt down to worship, and the surrounding reporters and audience followed suit. Kneeling on the ground, Lawyer Min watched this absurd scene, unable to believe her eyes. On the other side, Officer Chan in the hospital woke up from his coma. He felt no issues with his body, so Officer Chan returned home. He discovered that his daughter was not home again. His calls went to voicemail. After resting for a night, the next day, Officer Chan returned to the precinct. The streets were sparsely populated. Everyone seemed to have vanished. Arriving at the station, he found it completely deserted. The television was reporting news, and everyone believed in the existence of the Hell's Messengers. The cult became instantly famous. It became the focus of everyone's attention. Overnight, the number of followers skyrocketed. The host connected with Zheng Jinshou to ask why such events had occurred. Officer Chen opened his computer and found a new email. Upon opening it, he discovered it was a video of his daughter stunning the killer and dragging him away. Officer Chen didn't know what to do. At this moment, the television happened to be broadcasting an interview with Zheng Jinshou. From the television screen, Officer Chen recognized the coat hanging nearby belonged to Annie. He then connected a few dots and realized that Zheng Jinshou might be manipulating things behind the scenes, so he immediately rushed to Zheng Jinshou's apartment. He planned to confront him. On the way, he encountered many strange people. They were all living in tents. It turned out that these followers wanted to meet their leader, Zheng Jinshou. Officer Chen wouldn't be so passive. He went straight to Zheng Jinshou's home. Officer Chen smashed the door lock. He entered to find no one inside. Annie's clothes were also missing, but his actions drew the discontent of the followers. The irrational followers believed this was a sign of disrespect towards their leader. A group grabbed Officer Chen and began to beat him, just as he was about to be beaten to death. At this moment, the phone rang. The caller was none other than Zheng Jinshou. Only then did those around him stop. They fell silent. The video call was opened, and it was indeed Zheng Jinshou. He told the crowd to calm down. He had something to discuss with Officer Chen. He asked everyone to make way. Officer Chen held up his phone high, and only then did he leave the scene. Following the address given by Zheng Jinshou, Officer Chen drove over. Meanwhile, Arrowhead was causing more trouble. He aired the footage from the day of the livestream. When everyone knelt down, he began to twist the facts, condemning only the lawyer named Min for not kneeling. He used this video to gain traffic and ride the wave online. He incited his fans to attack the law firm. After Lawyer Min learned of this, she stated that the world had lost its order, so she booked a flight. Lawyer Min planned to leave with her mother. Just before leaving, she remembered receiving an anonymous package yesterday. Lawyer Min opened it to check, and found it was an interview from 2004 with a pastor Kim Jong-il, the first record of an interview with Zheng Jinshou. Only by finding this person named Kim Jong-il can the mystery of it all be unraveled. Lawyer Min wanted to return to the firm to find her partner. After she arrived at the office, the chaotic scene before her was shocking. The walls were covered with writings, left by the followers. She took out her phone to call her partner. Unexpectedly, her partner was slumped on the street and urged her not to get involved any further. It turned out he had just suffered threats and beatings from the followers. Just after the call ended, her partner took his last breath. Lawyer Min hurried back to the parking lot. To her surprise, Arrowhead's fans found her car. They dragged her 60-year-old mother out of the car and began to beat her. Lawyer Min rushed over to protect her mother. She was brutally beaten by the fans, and they recorded the video. After the fans had vented their anger, they drove away. The two women were sent to the hospital. Unfortunately, Lawyer Min's mother did not receive treatment and passed away. Lawyer Min's heart was consumed by hatred. In order to prevent more people from suffering, she made up her mind to expose the true nature of Zhang Jinshou, so she planned to meet the one named Kim Jong-il on Officer Chen's side. Following the address given by Zhang Jinshou, he arrived at the abandoned orphanage. Inside, Zhang Jinshou revealed the truth. In 2002, while in the orphanage, he first encountered the angel. The angel prophesied that 20 years later, on this very night, at 10:30 p.m., he would be taken by the Hell's Messengers. Officer Chen was puzzled. Aren't the Hell's Messengers always supposed to take those utterly wicked sinners? Zhang Jinshou remained calm. He continued speaking. He had never stolen anything, nor had he done anything wrong. In fact, he doesn't know the specific rules for the Hell Messenger to take people away. Regarding the killer who was burned, that was indeed something he had instructed Annie to do. Now, there are just a few minutes left until the Hell's Messengers appear. Officer Chen could record a video to prove his guilt and make it public. However, this would also implicate Annie. He could also choose to leave and act as if he knew nothing. At this moment, his daughter was safely home. You can decide how to proceed. The sound of heavy footsteps approached. 3 messengers appeared, and they proceeded to give him another beating. After absorbing Zhang Jinshou's soul, the Hell's Messengers vanished. On Lawyer Min's side, following the address, she found Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il played a recording from the interview with Zhang Jinshou years ago. At that time, Zhang Jinshou also said he didn't know the rules of the Hell's Messengers, that he first met the angel, and that he was going to die tonight, and so on. After Kim Jong-il finished playing it for Lawyer Min, he permanently deleted the recording file, because Zhang Jinshou had promised that Kim Jong-il would be the next leader of the cult. Upon learning this, she immediately rushed out the door. Unexpectedly, outside, she was already surrounded by followers. A few people rushed at her, armed with baseball bats. They began to beat Lawyer Min. Officer Chan returned home once again. His daughter had been waiting for him at home. He embraced his daughter and unconsciously began to cry. Meanwhile, Lawyer Min's body was abandoned on a pile of stones. With Lawyer Min's death, the investigation into the truth was thus put on hold. The scene shifts to 2027. 5 years later, the cult has become the most influential sect in South Korea, with countless followers across the nation. Some who were prophesied by the angel committed suicide in advance. The Hell's Messengers still appeared at the wake to judge their souls. Kim Jong-il took over the cult. He brainwashes people with the belief that only by believing in me can they be saved, based on the belief that the world is guilty, confusing countless citizens. One day, the cult arrived at the television station to watch the latest promotional video. The high priest had objections to the music in the sample. Young Jae was the creator of the promotional video. When someone criticized the work, he naturally was not pleased. In their exchanges, both sides carried a tone of hostility. Colleague Baron offered his opinion to ease the tension. With the director's persuasion, the situation was finally stabilized. A few days ago, Young Jae's wife had just given birth to a child. So recently, he rushed home after work, eager to see his son. After receiving instructions from his supervisor to revise the promotional video, this meant he had to work overtime. No wonder he looked unwilling. Young Jae originally wanted to consult Baron about work, but he found Baron was not there. On the desk was a card from a loan company, with a note on the back saying, Yongping Fishery. At this moment, Baron appeared. He snatched the card back. The two were supposed to revise the video together, but Baron seemed to have an unspeakable secret. He insisted on leaving work, leaving Young Jae to complete the work alone. Young Jae finally endured until the end of his shift. He rushed to the hospital to see his wife and child. On the way, Young Jae felt something was off with Baron. He had not been in good spirits lately, and had borrowed money at high interest. Young Jae had been partners with Baron for many years, so he felt a bit uneasy. Young Jae remembered the Yongping fishery on the back of the card, so he decided to check it out. Upon arriving, he found Baron's car, but Baron was nowhere to be seen. He wandered around the fishery, before finally spotting Baron's lonely figure. After questioning him, Baron finally revealed the truth. A few days ago, he had seen the angel. It prophesied that he would go to hell tonight. Now, only a few minutes remained before the messengers appeared. The cult had taken control of all of South Korea. Those so-called sinners died, and their families bore various labels. They were blamed by those around them, and they could not hold their heads up in society. Baron found an organization called Sutu. They specialized in handling matters for sinners, using disappearance as an excuse. At least this way, it wouldn't hurt their families. Just as he finished speaking, the Hell's messengers appeared. Baron was brutally killed, and his soul was absorbed. The Sutu members arrived on time. They took away Baron's body. One man removed his mask, revealing his true face. He reminded Young Jae to forget about what happened tonight. Meanwhile, in the distance, the one in charge of all this was none other than Lawyer Min. It turned out she was not dead, but she had a scar on her forehead. Then, the Sutu members injected Young Jae with a sedative. After an unknown amount of time, Young Jae woke up. It was already bright outside. He remembered he hadn't gone to see his child yet, so Young Jae hurried to the hospital. His wife lay in bed, lacking energy. Young Jae explained that he had worked overtime editing the video last night. His wife said nothing. She simply handed him her phone, playing a video for him. It was taken when she visited their child yesterday. A newborn baby. How could it be labeled a sinner? On the other side, the police took over Baron's missing person case. They arrived at the fishery to investigate. The high priest of the cult also came to investigate. The police showed great respect to the high priest and others. They did not dare to be negligent. It's easy to imagine how powerful the authority of the cult was at that time. Soon, the police discovered that, not long ago, Baron had borrowed money at high interest. The night before, he was seen buying cigarettes at a convenience store. He may have fled the country to escape his debts. The high priest learned that this case had nothing to do with the cult. He planned to leave, but before he left, the high priest found the card marked with Suta loans. He still felt it was strange, so he took a photo of it with his phone. Young Jae returned to the television station, but he had no energy left. The newborn baby, why had it been labeled a sinner? What parent could bear such a devastating blow? Suddenly, he remembered what happened last night. The man who had removed his mask. He seemed familiar. He felt he had seen him somewhere. Young Jae went to the archive room. He asked his colleague to pull up the video. That man actually appeared at the television station. His name was Professor Kong. There was also his phone number. In the archive, another person had been prophesied by the angel. Soon, members of the cult arrived to take over. The high priest discovered that the man's home was filled with cards from Suta loans. He eventually learned from the man's mouth about the organization called Sutu. He took the relevant materials and videos back to discuss with the leader, Kim Jong-il. Sutu was clearly opposing the cult, and their leader was none other than Lawyer Min from back then. When Kim Jong-il learned that Lawyer Min was alive, he was extremely angry. Kim Jong-il commanded the high priest to kneel.
지금부터 신을 거역한 불의한 무리를 적결할 때까지.
Then, he forcefully tapped his head, as if bestowing him with divine power. Young Jae quickly found Professor Kong. Professor Kong no longer hid the truth. He revealed the truth. 5 years ago, Lawyer Min sought out Kim Jong-il. She had heard the recording of Zhang Jinsho. Lawyer Min knew the cult was a sham. The so-called sinners were simply randomly chosen without any rules. Starting with Zhang Jinsho, they attached the label of sinner. It was merely to deceive the public. Currently, half of the world's population believes in the cult. They have all been deceived by lies. Even if some people have done no great wrong, once prophesied, the cult would find a way to label them as guilty, to solidify their control over the sect. After hearing Professor Kong's words, Young Jae took out the video recorded by his wife. He hoped the Sutu organization could help. In the secret base, Lawyer Min welcomed Young Jae. She stated that the angel had prophesied about the baby, something that had never happened before. If this were to happen, it would surely destroy the foundation of the cult, because how could a baby possibly be guilty? Lawyer Min expressed she could not change the outcome, but hoped Young Jae would agree to live stream the process of the Hell's messengers taking souls, to overturn the cult with the truth, sacrificing a child to save the world. But Young Jae disagreed. It was too cruel for him. To show the world through a live stream that his son was killed was absurd. What an outrageous thing it was. Yet Lawyer Min handed him a business card, urging him to think it over. Professor Kong escorted young Jae downstairs. He recounted an old story. Years ago, he was out with his daughter when they encountered the angel's prophecy. Just 30 seconds later, Professor Kong saw the Hell's messengers approaching. In a moment of desperation, he drove his car off the guardrail.
아빠, 살려줘.
She was then turned into a charred corpse. Looking back now, the process was relatively quick. Her daughter's death was like an accident, with no warning at all, compared to the suffering of others. This was fortunate. After Professor Kong finished speaking, he left alone. On the high priest's side, they found a family of sinners. They used torture to interrogate them, and obtained Professor Kong's name and phone number. So they intercepted Professor Kong. They forcefully pushed him into the incinerator, reducing him to ashes. Afterward, using Professor Kong's driving records, they located Lawyer Min's exact location. The cult members found it inconvenient to carry out such despicable acts. The task of silencing and covering up the murder was left to Arrowhead to handle. At this moment, Lawyer Min was no longer the same person. After noticing something was off, she left early. Even if someone pursued her, they were no match for Lawyer Min. After Young Jae returned home, he told his wife about the events of the day. His wife showed no reaction. The next day, Young Jae returned to the television station, but the news aired about Professor Kong being burned to ashes. The cult accused the professor of being a sinner. This was the result of the judgment, and the cult also stated that the next sinner would be Lawyer Min. Just as Young Jae hung up the phone, Lawyer Min called him. She asked Young Jae if he had thought it through. If this continued to drag on, she would have no way out. Young Jae replied he had just returned to work at the television station and hadn't made up his mind yet. Lawyer Min said it was a critical moment and urged him not to leave his wife and child alone at home. The speculation turned out to be correct. After a mental struggle, his wife unexpectedly brought the child directly to the cult's headquarters. She wanted to inquire about why her newborn child was labeled a sinner. When Young Jae saw a message from his wife, he realized something was seriously wrong. He informed Lawyer Min about the situation. The two set off simultaneously, heading to the cult's headquarters. The high priest was responsible for receiving Young Jae's wife. After watching the video, the high priest sensed trouble. He reported the matter to the leader, Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il and the church's high-ranking officials discussed after watching the video. If this matter leaked out, the consequences would be unimaginable. It would surely shake the very foundations of the cult, causing the Korean public to question it. Only by eliminating those who knew about this matter, killing was the simplest method. At this moment, Lawyer Min, along with her organization members, and Young Jae arrived at the cult. A member of Suto loudly declared that he would be judged in 10 minutes. The hall immediately fell into chaos. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lawyer Min and Young Jae rushed upstairs. When they arrived, cult members were trying to seize the child. Lawyer Min fought back with an iron rod, successfully rescuing the child. They dashed out of the parking lot and escaped safely. They arrived at a safe house, where a bearded man welcomed the couple. From him, they learned that he had originally been a follower of the cult. He had faithfully adhered to the cult's doctrines, but after receiving the angel's prophecy, the bearded man couldn't understand why, after becoming a believer, he would also become a sinner. So from that moment on, he began to doubt the cult. Thus, he defected and escaped. After some contemplation, she agreed to Lawyer Min's request to live stream. Lawyer Min immediately began a live stream online. Under her real name, she released the video of the child's prophecy, announcing that there would be a live stream tomorrow of the child's judgment process. Kim Jong-il also saw the live stream. The cult was now in a passive state. The original plan had been disrupted. Someone suggested that humans are born with original sin, but this contradicts the old doctrine. Some even said that Lawyer Min's video might be fabricated, but if that were the case, Lawyer Min had no reason to do this and live stream it. In an instant, the high-ranking members of the cult felt a crisis. The next day, while Lawyer Min discussed the live stream process with his wife, the bearded man suddenly needed to go out. It turned out that he was the leader of Arrowhead back then. He was the one who had live streamed with a painted face. After receiving the angel's prophecy, he felt a deep sense of despair. From that point on, he never appeared online again. Every day he worried, living in anxiety. Each day felt like a year. When he discovered that his death was only 5 minutes after the baby's, he suddenly felt that God might have other plans. So the next day, he hid by the street and called Kim Jong-il to inform him of the whereabouts of Lawyer Min and Young Jae, why the child was to be judged. He himself was to be judged after the child. What exactly was God's will? Unexpectedly, he was brainwashed by Kim Jong-il.
신도 실수를 한다는 증명? 그리고 그 실수를 바로잡으려는
Now, they arranged for the bearded man to make amends. Kim Jong-il used this to claim that the bearded man was the savior. He also promised that once the plan succeeded, he would ensure the bearded man's safety. The bearded man threw away his phone to let the cult track his location. He wanted to become the savior, but he couldn't let the cult take the credit. Lawyer Min arranged for someone to handle the live stream. The person in charge of the live stream had just arrived downstairs when he was suddenly killed by the bearded man. Young Jae went downstairs to check, only to run into the bearded man. Young Jae then realized that he had already betrayed them. Young Jae was pushed down the stairs by the bearded man and lost consciousness. Lawyer Min and the bearded man fought in the room. As the time for the judgment drew near, the wife had no choice, so she rushed outside holding the child. She looked at the crowd gathered in the corridor and loudly explained the situation. She asked everyone to take out their phones and live stream. The messenger was actually going to judge a child less than a month old. The crowd raised their phones, and dozens of live streams began simultaneously. The Hell's Messenger arrived as expected. The wife was desperately protecting the child, running everywhere. At this moment, Young Jae rushed over. The couple embraced their son tightly. Just like before, after taking the souls, the Hell's Messenger disappeared. The couple was burned to ashes for protecting the child. Unexpectedly, an unexpected event occurred. A cry broke the tense atmosphere of the scene. The child meant to be judged was unharmed, under their protection, safe and sound. The bearded man was also taken by surprise, so he raised his knife, preparing to kill the child. Fortunately, Lawyer Min appeared just in time and knocked him away. During their struggle, the Hell's Messenger appeared again, directly taking down the bearded man and sucking away his soul. Lawyer Min picked up the child and left. After the residents learned the truth, they helped the child put on a coat and made way for Lawyer Min. The high priest of the cult arrived, wanting to seize the child. Unexpectedly, he was restrained by the residents. The high priest lost control of his emotions and violently assaulted an innocent old man. The nearby police couldn't stand it any longer and immediately arrested the high priest. In the darkness, snowflakes began to fall. Lawyer Min walked into the alley outside and got into a taxi. To his surprise, the driver was Officer Chen, whom he hadn't seen in years. He knew where the police would be checking, so he took Lawyer Min out of the city. On the other side, at Jingzi's home, the cult had originally sealed the bodies as a display of sinners for public viewing. At this moment, smoke filled the air, and a strange scene unfolded. Jingzi surprisingly came back to life. Thus, the Hell's Messenger came to a complete end.